that stylebender fight. How crazy was that?
Really crazy.
Dude,
man.
the way he responded to that loss is better than anybody ever. Dude shows up at the press conference with a fucking fur coat like a king. With a dope-ass watch on and just says, he got me, you know? I mean, he basically said, the hunter is now the hunted. I'm coming after him. I'm going to find a way to beat that dude. I was on my way to beating him, and he got me.
On a recent episode of the Joe Rogan Experience podcast with Steve-O, Rogan expressed his awe at the size of Alex Pereira while they discussed the main event of UFC 281.
And he was honest about all of it, about how Pereira landed a bunch of calf kicks early on and it fucked up his leg and he couldn't move right. Those calf kicks have changed the fucking game.
Alex Pereira beat Israel Adesanya via knockout in the 5th round of their fight, catching the Nigerian-born Kiwi with a vicious barrage of strikes that led referee Mark Goddard to step in and stop the contest. Poatan was crowned the new middleweight champion. Discussing the showdown with Steve-O, real name Stephen Glover, the popular comedian spoke about the size of the Brazilian. When Glover asked Rogan if Pereira really weighed 220 pounds, he could have been, yeah, he certainly gets above that in between fights. He has a hard time making 185, it's a bullshit thing. It's basically sanctioned cheating. It really is, but everyone does it, he also said.
I don't think Pereira was going to stop. He had more time. Izzy was stationary, and Pereira was going to hit him some big shots. We don't need to see Izzy with his eyes rolled back behind his head, flat out unconscious. I think it was a good stop.
Rogan and Glover further discussed the fact that when Adesanya faced Jan Blachowicz at light heavyweight, the former middleweight champion weighed 194 pounds.
I agree that it was a good stoppage, and I could see where Izzy would be upset about it.
I could see where he would be upset about it too. And I could see where other fights have gone on longer.
The UFC commentator further outlined the effects of gaining muscle for someone like Adesanya, citing its effects on endurance and movement due to more oxygen required by the extra muscles. Popular comedian and UFC commentator Joe Rogan has come out in support of referee Mark Goddard, after claims that the bout between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira was stopped prematurely.
And they have, but it's a subjective call, and Mark Goddard is one of the very best in the world. He's top 2 or 3, he might be number 2. I think Herb Dean's number 1. Mark Goddard is surely right there. Very few bad calls, which I don't think I've ever seen him make a bad call.
During the same episode, Rogan defended the stoppage decision by stating, well, I don't think Pereira was going to stop. Izzy was stationary and Pereira was going to hit him with some big shots. We don't need to see Izzy with his eyes rolled back behind his head, flat out unconscious. I think it was a good stoppage. Rogan further elaborated on how the stoppage by Goddard prevented the former champion from taking further damage. The shots that Poatan landed were heavy and Pereira received no response from Adesanya.
And one time he won by a decision. If I go back and watch that kickboxing fight, I do not agree with that decision. In the second fight with kickboxing, it was a kind of shady situation because Izzy was winning and Izzy had him fucked up and they gave him a standing 8 count, which they can do in kickboxing.
While everyone expected the Nigerian-born Kiwi to win the decision owing to his success in the early rounds of the bout, Pereira's powerful strikes eventually caught him in the 5th round as Goddard waved the fight off and the Brazilian emerged as the champion of the middleweight division. Dude, the way Adesanya responded to that loss is better than anybody ever. Joe Rogan thinks that Israel Adesanya handled his UFC 281 stoppage loss to Alex Pereira like a true champion. Pereira defeated Adesanya for the 3rd time, 2-0 in kickboxing, after stopping the last stylebender with a vicious flurry of punches against the fence in the 5th and final round of the UFC 281 main event to become the new middleweight champion. Adesanya handled the loss particularly well, considering it was his first TKO loss in MMA and the first time he had lost a middleweight championship. Rogan credited the dethroned champ for showing up to the UFC 281 post-fight press conference in defeat and making no excuses for his performance, claiming that he handled the loss better than anybody ever. Rogan said,
he responded to that loss is better than anybody ever. Dude shows up at the press conference with a fucking fur coat like a king, with a dope-ass watch on and just says, he got me. You know, I mean, he basically said, the hunter is now the hunted. I'm coming after him. I'm going to find a way to beat that dude. I was on my way to beating him, and he got me.
Adesanya later revealed that he was disappointed with the stoppage, but he didn't blame referee Mark Goddard for his decision. Some fighters feel that the fight was stopped too early, but Rogan believes that Goddard made the right call and saved Adesanya from unnecessary damage.
And he was honest about all of it, about how the Pereira landed a bunch of calf kicks early on and it fucked up his leg and couldn't move right.
Nerve.
Yeah, those calf kicks have changed the fucking game. I can't believe, like, I was talking to Michael Bisping, who was UFC champion, and he said that literally he got through his entire career before the calf kick, which is so wild when you think about that.
Right.
Following the fight, Adesanya called for an immediate rematch, claiming that Pereira won the battle, but that he would win the war. Adesanya believes that he and Pereira are not done with each other. At UFC 281, Adesanya and Pereira faced off for the third time in combat sports, and once again, things did not end well for Adesanya. Though he was behind in the scorecards entering the final round, Pereira pulled off an incredible comeback, hurting Adesanya with a left hook and then pouring on shots until referee Mark Goddard jumped in for the standing TKO. The loss moved Adesanya to 0-3 against Pereira, and while he isn't a fan of the stoppage, the former UFC middleweight champion is still in good spirits after losing his belt, in part because he knows they'll meet again.
I was fine. First thing I said to you or the ref was I was fine because I was still lucid. I was in there, but yeah, shit happens.
I'll watch the fight again, Adesanya told Ariel Helwani on the MMA Hour. I haven't watched the fight again, but I don't think I'm gonna fixate on it, because it's not one of these things that's like, oh god damn it, I'll fight him again. I'll probably fight him 2 more times. Though Adesanya is 0-3 against Pereira, including 2 knockout losses, his first 2 defeats were in kickboxing, making it much more likely that the UFC would book a 4th fight. UFC President Dana White even said as much, suggesting an immediate rematch could be in store. Adesanya certainly agrees, stating that his next fight will be against Pereira, even if Pereira loses the title to someone else before then. I'll still fight him, Adesanya said. If he was gonna fight someone else and lose the belt, I'll still fight him next. I'll fight him. I hope he's the champion, but I'm just saying, hypothetically, I'll still fight him. I'm crazy, bro. I can beat him. I know I can beat him. You've seen that I can beat him. I won't say luck. F luck. He just invested well. A good game plan, he's a good fighter, but I know it's my ego. Maybe. Sure, but I'm allowed to. I just believe I'm better.
You know, I'm up and having him, I'm staying focused, and then he just catches me. But this time, I felt like I was there. I was really there, and first thing I told Eugene is I'm fine, because yeah, my head was still about me, but I think my eyes did the thing a little bit, yeah.
Until he gets the chance to prove it though, Adesanya now finds himself in unfamiliar territory. No longer the middleweight champion for the first time in 3 years. While some might expect him to just be taking the loss pretty hard, the last stylebender said it's simply just another step on the journey. People expect me to handle this like they would, so they project and are probably just like under a rock or a cave somewhere, Adesanya said. But I'm like, nah, I'm living my best life, I'm really grateful, I meant that. This is no fugazi crap. I'm blessed to be in the position I'm in, the opportunities I've gotten, to be able to do what I've done, and to be able to set up, not even a comeback, but set up for the next chapter.
Of course, I'll probably get the rematch, but I'll talk to my coaches first, my management, and see what we want to do next.
Alex Pereira wasn't happy with the things that Israel Adesanya has said about the stoppage by referee Mark Goddard in their UFC 281 title fight, which went down this past weekend at Madison Square Garden in New York. Poatan took to Instagram on Friday to respond to comments made by Adesanya on the MMA Hour earlier this week, when the now former champion said that he was waiting for Pereira to gas out so I can do my work. Adesanya, stop making excuses saying that the referee stopped the fight early. Pereira wrote, you have to thank him for saving your life. The way you were with your head down, looking at the ground, I only needed 1 or 2 more hits to connect, a good knee to your face, so we wouldn't know the outcome. As I said at that point in the video, you were a great opponent, and I respect you for that. Assume the mistakes along with your team without taking away my merits. Adesanya said earlier this week that he wants to really enjoy himself and just chill during Christmas and New Year's Eve before booking his next fight, and Pereira wrote on his post that an immediate rematch is next, or 4th encounter if you consider both kickboxing matches won by Pereira in the past. You will have 1 more chance, Pereira wrote, you're next.